So UFC Fight Night Namajunas versus Cortez just took place in UFC Denver, and overall, I actually think that it was a very good card. There was a lot more finishes than I kind of expected with the fight bet card being at elevation, and there were also some very good high moments. I will admit, there were some low moments, and we will of course talk about that, but in this video, I did just want to go over every single fight that happened on the card. I'll probably quickly brush through the prelims, and then we can talk about the main card fights a little bit more in depth. Evan Elder defeated Darius Flowers. I thought that he showed really good fight IQ in this matchup. Going to the body against a guy like Darius Flowers who is all power, like kind of everything that Darius Flowers does is power. Like when Flowers was going for takedowns, he was using his power, his strength to do that, and when he was throwing bombs. Elder kind of, I guess, recognized maybe in the tape study that Flowers could slow down if you work the body against him, especially at elevation. And Elder did that. I think the body work really paid him dividends in this matchup, and I think it really is a good reason why Flowers did slow down so much in this fight. Flowers looked like he was in very good shape for the matchup. I know that it was short notice for both guys, but even Elder in general, I think he must have really good cardio, because it was a very high-paced fight, and Elder was still going. The body work, I think, kind of still was a little bit of everything. And I thought that Evan Elder had a very good moment on the mic afterwards. I liked his interview, come across as a very likable guy, and then shouted out Trump. But aside from that, he also wants to fight very, very soon. So it would be kind of cool to see Evan Elder get in there as soon as possible. There is a lot of very fun matchups for Evan Elder that you could make at some point at lightweight. Andre Petroski defeated Josh Fremd, and I'm kind of thinking this might be the last time we see Josh Fremd in the octagon. It just depends if he was on his last fight on his contract or not, because I would assume he wasn't. I think that he might have one more fight, but the loss to Andre Petroski like that is not a good look for Josh Fremd at all. Didn't really have an answer for the takedowns of Petroski. Fremd was looking good on the feet because, of course, we do know that Andre Petroski's striking isn't very good. He kind of only has hooks. But the thing about Petroski is he is actually a very talented grappler. I know I've been very critical of him in the past, but it is because the UFC, for some weird reason, built him up and gave him some of the easiest matchups, which they could have given to some other prospect that was a little bit younger and a little bit better. But Petroski looked good. He won the fight, dominated in the grappling. You know, it wasn't like the best, most fun fight, but that's kind of just how Petroski fights. If he doesn't get a submission, he is going to dominate in the grappling for the most part, and that's exactly what happened. Speaking of dominant grappling, Luana Santos really showed a grappling advantage over Maria Agapova, and we did kind of all expect this, didn't we? Because Maria Agapova has been making headlines for a lot of very bad reasons. Now, I guess the main one is probably something I don't want to talk about, but there is stories of her getting kicked out of gyms. There's even, like, word of potential drug abuse, then that's why she's getting kicked out of gyms. Like, there's a lot that's been going on with Maria Agapova. And then, in general, even if she did have a good camp and she was 100%, her grappling isn't that great. And Luana Santos does have a judo background. We saw that in this one here. She took down Maria Agapova, was very smooth on the ground, was able to find a rear naked choke, I believe was the finish. And she finished Maria Agapova pretty easily in the grappling. A good performance for Santos. Maria Agapova is a tricky striker and kind of has been tough for quite a few fighters in the past to deal with, but Luana Santos made it look easy. She looked good while doing it in more ways than one, and I do think that she probably will have gained quite a few fans with that performance in Denver. And now Montel Jackson has defeated Damon Blackshear. I guess, like, in the most impressive finish on the card. You know, he did knock him out in 18 seconds. I think that is the fastest bantamweight finish since 2013, because I believe Peyton Talbot actually had the fastest since 2013 with 19 seconds, and now Jackson's finished him in 18 seconds. Pretty much what happened was Montel Jackson just threw a 1-2 down the pipe. Dominic Cruz actually called it perfectly, which was kind of cool for him, I guess, but Damon Blackshear, I don't know, just didn't move his head, like, at all in the sequence. And Montel Jackson, he is one of the most powerful guys at bantamweight, you know. I still think he's knocked down every single one of his opponents in the UFC. You know, he fought, I believe, Jesse Strader and knocked him down like 5 times, knocked down JP Bays like 5 times, and then this guy has some serious power, and the UFC rates him highly. He had matchups against the top 15 booked that just didn't really end up happening. There are those fights that I would like to see from him, But in the future, I would also really like to see Montel Jackson versus Vinicius Oliveira. I think that is probably the best fight you can make between those two. Maybe at like UFC 308 in New York or something like that. That would be cool. I know it's probably not a ranked opponent, and I do still genuinely believe that Montel Jackson does deserve a ranked opponent, especially since this fight was put together on short notice. For Damon Blackshear, kind of a shame to get him knocked out like this, but I can't say I didn't expect it happening. I did think that Jackson was going to knock him out. Did I think he was going to knock him out in 18 seconds? Definitely not. But it is what it is. I think a lot of people probably got burned there. I think a lot of people were on Blackshear, but Jackson's good, man, and he has a wrestling base. So even if the fight did get extended, and Blackshear has really, really bad cardio. We saw him get 10-8'd by Yusuf Salal on short notice from gassing out. So short notice at elevation, I don't think that we would have seen a different result at all. Hindsight is always 2020, I know that, but good win for Montel Jackson. Very happy to see him get this win, actually, because he's had a lot of cancelled fights. Hopefully he got the $50,000 bonus, and I'd like to see him back. I think Vinicius Oliveira, although I think he's deserving of a top 15 fight, that's the banger fight that you could give him. Jasmine Dasuda Vicious defeated Fatima Klein, and I'll be lying if I said I'm not happy about this one, because Fatima Klein, man, like, she is the best women's prospect on the planet, and then accepting a top 15 matchup upper weight class against probably the biggest women's flyweight on the roster. I probably should have seen this one coming, and to be honest, I didn't even see it happening because I was cooking lunch when this fight is on. Usually when there are fights like this, I think a lot of people like go to the shop and buy snacks, or go to the bathroom and do various things. Because of my time zone, the fights actually take place during the day on Sunday, and when this fight was happening, I was cooking lunch, so I didn't really watch it. But what I did see was Jasuda Vicious beating Fatima Klein in the grappling and the wrestling. That's a hard pill to swallow. Man, in hindsight, dude, Klein just should have fought in the Contender Series. It is what it is. It is what it is. I can't even really say anything because I didn't even watch the fight. Charles Johnson did defeat Joshua Van, and this is kind of where I get a little bit annoyed, because the commentators were talking as if Joshua Van was dominating the matchup. Let me tell you this. On my scorecard, I thought Charles Johnson won round 1 and round 2. On the judges' scorecards, the scorecards were 2-0 for Charles Johnson, 1-1, and 2-0 for Joshua Van. When that happens, it tells you that it's a very close fight. The commentators were talking as if Joshua Van was dominating Charles Johnson the whole time. And I know that a lot of people are probably racing to comment right now, because Joshua Van, in my opinion, probably has maybe the most insufferable fan base out of any UFC fighter right now. Let me tell you this. In the first round, Charles Johnson started out really hot, and I do think that it was enough to beat Joshua Van, because Joshua Van came out hot in the second half of the first round, and I guess made it a lot more close than when it started, because Johnson started very, very good. But I still think overall Johnson did the most in that round 1, and I think he did the most damage. And that's what comes down to round number 2 for my scorecard, because in round number 2, Van looks really good for most of the round, I will say, but he's not landing very damaging blows. I do understand that Charles Johnson is overreacting to a lot of shots, but I also think a lot of those shots actually didn't land, and Johnson's head movement is just really awkward, like he's looking away from the opponent as he pulls back. And then I think what stole the round for Johnson was he had the biggest moments in the round. He landed the biggest shots. He landed a big knee that hurt Joshua Van towards the end of round 2, and he landed elbows. And I thought that it was actually that damage in round 2, did the most damage that won him the fight. And if you actually look at the stats, I think Charles Johnson actually outlanded Joshua Van 2-1 in significant strikes. So a lot of people want to play the volume game. I'm pretty sure, unless it's the other way around, but I'm pretty confident the volume even favors Johnson. I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying that Joshua Van won the round due to his pressure. That's not the judging criteria. The judging criteria number 1 is damage. It's always damage. And in the very, very rare circumstance that damage is even, and if you believe that damage is even, then you can go to other things. But you very, very rarely, if not ever, do that. And Johnson, in my opinion, did the most damage in round 1 and 2. The commentators made it believe that Joshua Van was dominating the fight, and I think that's probably why a lot of the general public thought that Johnson was down. It didn't matter, But man, they really were potentially going to rob Charles Johnson of a very good performance here in this one. Johnson in the third round, I think it was a massive right hook that initially rocked Van, and then he loaded up on a big uppercut, dropped Van. The ref, I thought, was a very quick to stop the fight, like very, very quick to stop the fight, but I didn't see Van protest the stoppage. I mean, Van wasn't knocked out, but honestly, for the best, probably, I think, because if, you let Johnson get 4 or 5 ground and pound shots in, and Van potentially doesn't defend them, it really could maybe offset him as a prospect at 22 years old. That's the thing that you need to understand about Joshua Van. He's 22, man. He's one of the youngest fighters on the roster right now. He's doing really big things for his career. It's just kind of like, I think his fans really, really overhyped him, man. I like Joshua Van, but I very heavily dislike his fan base because they are so annoying, man. And I did pick Charles Johnson to win this one. I actually thought that Johnson was going to out-wrestle Joshua Van, and I think that's going to be a very big talking point for Van in the future, is how good his takedown defense is. I didn't really think that he was going to be able to defend the takedowns of Charles Johnson, because if you actually watch Joshua Van's fights on the regional scene, which I strongly believe none of Joshua Van's fans have actually done, he gets out-wrestled by Paris Moran somewhat easily. He gets out-wrestled by Cleveland McLean as well, kind of in the same sort of situation. And then he comes back and wins in the second round. I mean, Paris Moran gassed out in round 1 because he's a massive flyweight. And speaking of size, Johnson isn't someone that I would consider to be a massive flyweight, like a weight bully. Joshua Van is really small for this weight class, man, and I can't believe how well he makes it work. Because he's really small, man. Like, he's really, really small for the weight class, and I've been saying it for a long time now. If the UFC added men's strawweight, men's 115 pounds, Joshua Van would be, like, number 1, I think. There are a lot of guys in Asia right now fighting at strawweight. I believe there's quite a few guys in Japan. I know for a fact there are a lot of fighters from Indonesia fighting right now at men's strawweight, and I've even seen some men's strawweight belts being added to some bigger events kind of in the US as well, which is very interesting. So maybe in like 4 or 5 years time or something like that, we have a men's strawweight division, which is kind of crazy for a lot of people to, I guess, imagine. But there's a lot of small dudes out there, man, and flyweight, in my opinion, is one of the better divisions in the UFC, one of the most exciting to watch, definitely one of the most technical. And men's strawweight, I don't know, maybe that could be something too. For Charles Johnson, though, good win for him. I thought that he won round 2 and round 1, and then got the finish, so I thought that was a very good performance for Johnson. Didn't get it done with the wrestling, though. Very impressed by Van's takedown defense, especially considering how small he is for this weight class. But a good performance for Johnson. I'm glad he wasn't robbed of that win. Now, Cody Brundage fought against Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, and it's kind of tough because you can't blame Cody Brundage for this. And I know I went on a Twitter rampage saying that Cody Brundage, you're fighting Joe Pyfer next. Cody Brundage, Ikram Aliskerov needs an opponent. Like, I was giving him all of the matchups that I know he would lose. And I'll be honest with you, I actually think that he probably is going to get Joe Pyfer next. The UFC are not going to do him any favors for this. But the fault isn't on Cody Brundage. Now, the fault's on Abdulrazak Al-Hassan. Do I think that this one was as egregious as the Jacob Malkoun one? I actually am going to say no, because when the Jacob Malkoun fight was stopped, I actually said, why was Jacob Malkoun throwing an elbow in that position? The way that that fight kind of was stopped was Jacob Malkoun was on his back, and then threw like an elbow downwards, and there was absolutely nowhere else for the elbow to land except the back of Cody Brundage's head. Like, there is absolutely no way you could not land an illegal blow in that situation with that strike. So I actually do agree with that being a DQ, despite contrary, definitely unpopular opinion there. For this one, I'm glad it was a no contest, because if you do actually kind of watch the fight, you can tell that Abdulrazak Al-Hassan isn't intentionally trying to hit the back of the head, and he did hit the back of the head multiple times. He did. Now, do I think that Cody Brundage could have continued? Probably, but also kind of not. I do think he kind of did milk it a little bit, and if he didn't, I think it was because he was knocked out from all of the legal shots that landed. And the awkward part is, when the ref stepped in and when they were looking at the slow-mo replays, I thought that, like, they weren't the illegal shots. The illegal shots, in my opinion, were actually prior to the finishing sequence, or when the ref stepped in. So it is what it is. I mean, I'm kind of very upset that this fight didn't happen. As for Brundage, I don't think the UFC are going to give him a nice fight after this, man. I genuinely think Joe Pyfer versus Cody Brundage, or maybe a Boost Magomedov versus Cody Brundage. I mean, they're just not going to give him any favors. As for Abdul, he's 39, man. Jeez. Yeah, he's going to have to fight sometime soon, I guess. Jeez, I mean, he's 39. Yeah, get Abdul in there soon. You know, he didn't take any damage. He looked very fired up, so let's just give him a fight. Now, Julian Rosa defeated Christian Rodriguez. My mouse just stopped working. In this one here, C-Rod gassed out in like 2 minutes. Now, it started out very scrappy. They were throwing down. I was enjoying the fight. I was having a great time. And I was actually thinking to myself, Christian Rodriguez is in better shape in this fight, like physically, than he was at 135 pounds. So I was like, why can he not make 135? And then, obviously, Rosa got the trip takedown, and then was able to just out-grapple him easily. And I think that he was actually able to out-grapple him easily because C-Rod was gassed. I genuinely believe that Christian Rodriguez actually did gas out in this fight and wasn't able to defend the grappling. And the reason why is because we have seen Christian Rodriguez showcase good defensive grappling in the past. You could use Bulgarian as an example, but we won't. We'll use Jonathan Pearce as an example. Jonathan Pearce, he showed very, very good defensive grappling at 145 pounds against a very big opponent at 145 in that matchup. The issue that a lot of people have with C-Rod, and I have it too, I definitely would say that he's not in my favourite fighters list. He probably is one of my least kind of favourite fighter tier, is because when he defeated Rodolfo Jr. and Cameron Saman, he did it by missing weight, and then to top it off, he was gifted a decision against Bulgarian, man. But anyway, Rosa get it done. Very good performance for Julian Rosa. I actually did pick C-Rod to win this one as kind of as everyone else did, but I genuinely do encourage you to watch the fight back, because 2.5 minutes in, Christian Rodriguez is breathing heavy. Like, I think that might be why he can't make 135. Like, is he just not training as hard as everyone else? You know, or like, he gassed out. I understand that the fight is at elevation, but a lot of people didn't really gas as hard as I expected them to. And C-Rod, yeah, I just don't know. I don't know what's going on with him in his career. Maybe something to kind of keep your eye out for. Speaking of good performances, I thought both guys looked good in this fight. I think that you can give a lot of credit to Namajunas in this fight, and I think you can give Gabriel Bonfim a lot of credit in this fight as well. There was a 30-27 scorecard for Bonfim. I don't know, I thought that Namajunas won the first round, but maybe once again the judge really went to that damage scoring criteria and rated the boxing of Bonfim towards the end of round 1, and also all of the body shots that he landed. And that once again comes down to good fight IQ. He landed so many shots to the body. If you look at Namajunas, he's a massive dude. Like, this guy is very, very well built. He carries a lot of great muscle around. And obviously, you know, that's what you drain to cut weight. And then you come into the UFC, you come into the fight, you're at elevation, and you gas out, you know, because you're at elevation, it's harder to breathe. And according to the commentators, I mean, I've never fought at elevation, obviously, we're saying that your muscles start to get heavier. So, like with Namajunas, you know, he's got a lot of muscle there. Bonfim, the knees to the body, I think, were the story of the fight. He landed a lot of shots to the body in the first round. Knee to the body, knee to the body, knee to the body. Round 2, same story, a lot of knees to the body. And then when the boxing was starting to get going, which he does have, was uppercuts to the body, hooks to the body, rips to the body with that right hand. Was just working the body the whole fight, man. I think that was literally a very good reason why he won that matchup, because Namajunas went out there in the first round, albeit did spend a lot of energy getting takedowns against Bonfim, who did show decent takedown defense, I thought, for the most part, for a primary grappler. And I thought, man, like, maybe this could continue into round 2, but I think that all of that investment that Gabriel Bonfim had done in round 1, and then he continued to invest in the body in round 2, just opened him up for a lot of shots. Now, Bonfim wasn't able to get the finish, but he looked good, he looked crisp. Now, the boxing didn't look like as great as I thought it would, because, as I have said in the past, he is a national professional boxing champion. If you search him up on BoxRec, I believe he's 5-1 as a pro boxer. One of those wins is for a national title in Brazil. But Bonfim looked good. I guess he maybe just looked a little bit sloppy because he gassed out in the elevation, but I do want to say this, he must have very, very good cardio for she must just have very good cardio to kind of keep it up. And I thought Angelusa pushed quite well as well, and Angelusa's got pretty good cardio, so I don't think that you can take any stock away from this one in Angelusa. I thought that both guys looked good. I thought that both guys dug deep, and I was just very happy to see Bonfim go 3 rounds, so we know that he can go 3 rounds if he needs to. Gene Silver defeated Drew Dober. I did pick Drew Dober. Was it a bad pick? Kind of, but like I also kind of think maybe not really. Gene Silver's good. He's a lot better than I thought he was. Like, a lot better than I thought he was, I'll be honest with you. He came into the UFC, and I thought he was just kind of going to be like a worse version of Joanderson Brito. And turns out, like, maybe he is Joanderson Brito, except out of Fighting Nerds. Very, very good. I mean, the word was that Mauricio Rufy was offered the fight against Drew Dober. I have been told that Mauricio Rufy has another fight in the works right now that is a lot bigger than the Drew Dober fight. We'll see if it ends up happening or not. But Mauricio Rufy declined the fight because he couldn't make the weight. And then Gene Silver obviously heard word of the Rufy offer and said, hey, I'll do the fight, 2 weeks later. But he did miss weight on that 145 pounds. So I was worried. I was like, man, he just had a tough weight cut. Took a little bit of damage against Jordan, coming back 2 weeks later at elevation against a big guy at 155, and just Drew Dober, he just beats him. He did knock him out, or didn't knock him out, sorry, he TKO'd him with the cut. It was a brutal cut, but I do want to say this one thing as well. Drew Dober kind of had an opportunity to finish him early, because I thought he rocked him early in the first. And then Gene Silver was talking to Dober's corner, and, Dober was smashing him with big shots, and he just ate them. He just ate all of those shots. I couldn't really believe it, to be honest with you. But, yeah, just Gene Silver, good chin, very good chin. We have learned that in the past because of his Contender Series fight against Kevin Vallejos, who's a very good boxer, landed some of his best shots on Gene Silver, and Silver just ate them and kept going. Silver's a good prospect at 145, man. I mean, I do kind of worry about the weight a little bit because he has missed weight once, but watching him fight against Drew Dober, he's not a lightweight at all. Drew Dober, I know he's a big lightweight. He's not even the biggest lightweight at all, or even close. Silver, you're a featherweight. He just needs to sort out that weight cut, but hopefully, that can be something that can be solved easily. Fantastic performance for Silver. Should get 50k bonus for taking the fight on short notice and getting the win like that. It was a good fight overall. I thought it was a good scrap. Dober didn't wrestle like he said he was going to, but we'll just leave it as it is. Now, I need to kind of make a little bit of a announcement and be honest with you guys. I realized before this fight started that I have an assignment due tomorrow that I didn't do for the last 3 weeks. Well, I actually forgot about it. And then I realized I have an assignment due tomorrow. So I started panicking and I started working on the assignment. I'm nearly done. It's not a big one at all. So I did kind of miss a lot of this fight. I had it going on my phone while I was working on the assignment on my computer, sorry. I thought Santiago Ponzinibbio may have won it, but I mean the commentators were saying it was a close fight. People on Twitter were saying it was a close fight and could have given Salikov the first 2 rounds apparently. I didn't really see much of it, but I thought that Ponzinibbio may have taken round 1 and round 3, but I'll be honest, I could be wrong about that one, and I'll be honest, I didn't really watch it because I was working on my assignment in a very panicked frenzy. Rose Namajunas defeated Tracy Cortez. 48-47 scorecards were read out, and I was confused with that. Now, once again, I did watch this one. I didn't really watch the co-main because I didn't really care about it, I'll be honest. But I did watch this one because I did want to see how the fight played out, because I thought in my prediction, Rose Namajunas could have dropped the first 2 rounds against Cortez, and Cortez was going to gas with the elevation and Namajunas was going to take over. That didn't really happen. In fact, kind of the opposite happened in a way. In the first rounds, I watched Namajunas beat the piss out of Tracy Cortez on the feet and made Tracy Cortez look like she has absolutely no idea how to strike whatsoever. And that begs the question, how bad is Jasmine de Sousa Vicious at striking? Because Tracy Cortez pieced up Jasmine easily with no problems. And then Tracy had nothing to offer against Rose. Tracy, her head never moved. The whole time her head was there, and when she was throwing her strikes, not like kind of like chin down, kind of throwing your shots, like technically, I was an amateur boxer, by the way, so I should do kind of know what I'm talking about here. She wasn't chin down, like she was just chin up, and she was running like this. Like, what was happening? And then Rose would just counter her, and then Rose would throw like a jab. Um, and then Tracy would just instantly respond with a hook. Like, you're never. Sorry, I think I might have got the mic with some here. Dude, you're never ever going to land by throwing a hook when someone throws a jab. Never. Because a jab has more range than a hook. I mean, it's just basic principles, honestly. But yeah, Tracy Cortez doesn't know how to strike at all, and then didn't really get the wrestling going like at all. So Rose Namajunas beat her up on the feet and beat her up on the grounds. Had submission attempts, looked like she was going to finish the fight, never did, which I'm a bit disappointed in. But she showed levels, man, and I know she's called for a title fight, but it kind of seems like Grasso's locked in to fight Shevchenko, but that's not been confirmed. I mean, there has been a kind of a leak that Holloway and Topuria are going to fight at 306. And what was the other fight? O'Malley versus Dvalishvili was going to be at 306. It was announced very casually on the French broadcast, apparently. So maybe they thought that it was public information, or maybe they have fallen for like leaks or rumors that people have been coming up with. I don't know. Maybe there's a language barrier. I don't know. But apparently that's what's at 306. Maybe they do add Grasso versus Shevchenko, but it kind of seems like Manon Fiorot has that locked up because she beat Rose. So Rose Namajunas versus Erin Blanchfield, I'd like to see. You know, like there's not really anything else. Like, who was she meant to fight? Macy Barber? Maybe just rebook that fight, and then Rose can have a title shot there. I don't know if you can get a title shot after beating Tracy Cortez, especially with how bad Cortez looked. You know, like this, they were not the same level in there. I don't know where the 48-47 scorecard come from. You could give Cortez round 5 because you come out there trying to finish the fight, but yeah, I thought Rose just dominated her, man, honestly. So that's kind of my take on that main event. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.